Hi, I'm Eric Byrnes. On this special edition of Our Stories, we have my former teammate, World Series champion manager, and Stanford alum, AJ Hinch.
Wow.
Dude.
I mean, they should, so I didn't know you were here, first off.
I purposely didn't tell you.
God, how do you not tell me?
I just wanted this nice natural reaction, man.
Man, I was telling him, I was like, man, I've done everything with this dude.
It doesn't stop, bro.
No.
It doesn't stop.
No.
We're gonna go down memory lane. Like this is,
That's incredible.
yeah, I'm fired up.
Me too.
So-
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm hard to surprise. But we did it. We did it.
AJ Hinch, I mean, I think we need to give everybody the long history
Right.
of our relationship.
Okay.
So much so that Pac-12 calls me in to do this interview.
Right.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to high school. I get recruited by Stanford.
Yeah.
Recruiting host, official recruiting host at Stanford.
Yeah, because they wanted you to come to Stanford. I get to host you on this trip, this weekend where it's, you know, dinners, football game, probably a fraternity party, and hang for the weekend to try to convince you to come to Stanford.
Now we're gonna do a little reverse. We're gonna go back, Midwest City, Oklahoma. I mean, you're a baseball lifer. You were born for this, right? You were born for this. Where does that love come from?
It really started, I fell in love with the sport from the very beginning. I mean, number one, I've always wanted to compete. From the day that I was old enough to have an opinion, I wanted to win. And so the competition drives a lot of the love for sports in general. You know, I was taught to work hard. My dad built me a batting cage in the backyard because he wanted me to always have a place to practice. I played on 2 leagues when I was a young player, trying to play as much baseball as I could. I tried to play every sport. You know, I played basketball, I played baseball, I played football. I always wanted to compete. And then opportunities started to open up for me the more that I developed and the more that I got better. I started playing for Team USA. I started getting talked to about colleges. And that type of success just breeds that inner burn for me to keep competing, to keep trying to get better, to keep trying to advance to the next level. And I think it's what drives me today.
The 1990, what was it, 2? Gatorade National Player of the Year?
Yeah.
I mean,
Gatorade.
you were it. You were like, you had a huge name. High school player, I mean, that's gigantic.
Well, you know what's funny? I look back at those lists. You know who's on that list that won his region was Derek Jeter.
Really?
And to me, like I pinch myself in moments like that, looking back, and you see names that you recognize that went on to play Major League Baseball, went on to build a name for themselves, and I still have the gold-plated plaque. It still is one of my biggest accomplishments. It was a big deal to me. Gatorade flew in. We did a commercial. All things. I mean, I got a picture in Sports Illustrated. Like things that were incredible to me at the time was in this journey through amateur baseball. I mean, my amateur career is, you know, it's hard to believe it's true when you look back at the things that I've been exposed to.
So here you are in the middle of Oklahoma, though. At what point does Stanford get on your radar?
Yeah, so Stanford came on my radar. I played in the U.S. Olympic Festival in Los Angeles at USC when I was an early teenager. And at that point, you start to get exposed to other parts of the country. I'd never been really out of Oklahoma that much until Team USA took me out of Oklahoma. I started playing in Canada. I went to Mexico. I had a U.S. Olympic Festival in L.A. and got to play at Dodger Stadium, got to play at USC. That opened up California, which was completely foreign to me. And teams scout those, and coaches start coming to those events. And I remember getting a postcard from Mark Marquis asking me if I would have interest in more information about Stanford University. And when you start talking about colleges and what you want in the next level, I told my parents, I said, I want the best school with the best baseball program. So I looked at Vanderbilt, I looked at Miami, I looked at Wichita State. I think Stanford was my 2nd or 3rd visit, official visit. But the day that I stepped on campus, I turned everybody else away. I'm like, that's the place for me. I felt completely home at the very beginning, and I never looked back.
So you go to Stanford, freshman. season's just about starting, and Mark Marquis calls you into the office.
Yep. We were sitting at practice, and we're going through BP, and didn't even notice that Nine had disappeared. He'd gone up to his office, and Dave Esker, who's now the coach there, was the hitting coach at the time, and says, "Hey, Nine wants to see you." And so you run across the field. You weren't allowed to walk on the field. It's not Stanford. You have to run across the field. So I run across the field, and I get to the steps that are right by the dugout. And as I get up to the top of the steps, Nine comes out of his office and walks down to the grass, which is probably 50 or 60 feet. Puts his arm around me, and we're walking back to his office. Now, Nine's never really been an emotional man. He's not, he's not someone that hugs on you all the time. He's not that physical. He's not that emotional. And he was broken up, and I had no idea what was coming to me. I go and I sit in his office, and he says, "I don't really know how to say this to you. I've never had to say this to a player, but you just lost your father." My life changed that day, and Nine became a father figure to me at that point. Not because he was the guy that told me, but because he had similar values to my dad, and I started to lean on him to be that male mentor, that adult figure in your life. I left the team, I went home for a week, and went to the funeral, and came back and continued my career at Stanford. And if it wasn't for Stanford and the people around there, the supporting group that I had, I either would have never come back, or I certainly wouldn't have been able to bounce back.
39 years old.
Yeah, 39. I was 18.
Dealing with that at 18, though, right?
Right.
I mean, I go to imagine that's not only your dad,
Right.
that's your buddy.
That's my boy, yeah. No, he was my best friend. And you know what's, in weird plots of this story, right? So I leave the team, and they played Fresno State when I was gone. Brody Van Wagenen, who was my teammate and my roommate on the road, and now the GM of the Mets, takes my clothes, puts on everything but my jersey, because obviously it wasn't my number, hits a game-winning home run on Friday night, and wrote me an incredible message on a Pac-12 baseball, or Pac-10 at the time, Pac-10 baseball, basically saying it was for me. I have that ball to this day, and I'll have that memory forever. It's going to sound funny coming from me, but I was untouchable. Like I had everything that, I kind of was the poster child. I had the All-American life. I had I was hitting third from the day that I walked on campus. And in that instance, I think I became one of them. I became a normal. I was dealing with normal lives. My world was changing, and we had to develop that bond quickly. And they did an incredible job of being the strength that I didn't have for most of my freshman year, based on my disbelief that anything had gone wrong in my life. I'd had this All-American journey that all of a sudden came crashing down, and that I'll never be able to repay him, but I'll never forget it.
Coming up.
The decision to be a manager changed my life. And what I didn't know at the time is I was walking into an inferno.